Hello, Kel67 Gaming here, back again to share one of my favourite fives. This time it's going to be the system that got me back into console gaming. This is going to be my favourite 5 games for the Sega Master System. The Sega Master System wasn't the first console that I ever owned. That dubious honour goes to the Atari 2600. However, when the video game crash happened in America, here in Europe we all switched to microcomputers. We had the ZX Spectrum from Sinclair with the Amstrad CPC 464, and we had the Commodore 64. And games were cheap and plentiful on these microcomputers. But when consoles made their comeback, in America it was led by the NES from Nintendo. Here in Europe, especially in the UK, and I believe in Brazil as well, dominating the market absolutely was the Sega Master System. Here in the UK, certainly, people did not take to the Nintendo Entertainment System at all. It was the Master System that every kid in the schoolyard wanted a Sega Master System, not an NES. This was a time when the arcade was king. No one was really that interested in an Italian plumber. That has since changed a little, and Nintendo have managed to get a foothold into the UK market. However, it took them a long time. It really took them to the Wii before they got a real good foothold here in the UK. However, that's for a different time and a different video. This is going to celebrate my love of all things Sega, and we'll start with my 5th favourite game on the Sega Master System. As I said, at the time when the Master System came out, the arcade was king, and my first pick is a conversion of an arcade game. This is Pac-Mania, which I remember playing in the arcades. It was an excellent game. I say was, it still is an excellent game. Update of the classic Pac-Man, which of course brings me full circle with my first console being the Atari 2600, which of course I had Pac-Man and more importantly Miss Pac-Man for. So it was nostalgia before I even knew that I wanted to have nostalgia, I guess. Absolutely loved the game. Obviously it's got the isometric viewpoint on it, and you've got the added bonus that Pac-Man can now jump over things. So I added a little bit more to the gameplay. Loved the game, still love it now. It's definitely worth playing if you ever see it, out and about. Great game. So that was my 5th favourite game. So the only place logically to go from there is my 4th favourite game on the Sega Master System. Well, I do love shmups, and again, the arcade was king. This is R-Type. There was probably a better version of this released on the Mega Drive, I believe, but this was the one that I played. I played this on the Master System, absolutely loved the game, love all my shmups, as regular viewers of the channel will know. It's just the perfect combination. A great game, it's part of a great genre on a great system. I don't think I can say any more. Which means that we rapidly get to my third favourite game for the Sega Master System. So that was Rambo. If anyone did watch my favourite 5 games on the NES, you'll know that I put in there Akari Warriors, and part of my reasoning behind that was because we all wanted to be Rambo. This is one step better. This actually is Rambo. Or is it? I believe that the game actually was originally designed as Secret Command, but obviously with the popularity of the First Blood films and the release of First Blood Part 2, this was rebranded as Rambo. Picture of Sylvester Stallone on the front and a headband added to the sprite. It's your classic commando stroke Akari Warriors fare, where you're running up vertically up the screen, taking out wave upon wave of enemies. Fits the character of Rambo absolutely perfectly. It plays quite well. It's a game that I'm just very, very fond of. Love the film, love the game, love everything about it. So that's my third favourite game on the Sega Master System. And it feels like we've only just started this list, but already we're up to my second favourite game on the Sega Master System. And once more, I think I should just point out that at this time, the arcade was king. And no arcade game held the crown as... They didn't have a grip on it as tight, I should say, as Gauntlet. Gauntlet was just a phenomenon in the arcades. Whether it be the 4-player co-op play or the game itself, I don't know, but myself and all my school friends were absolutely addicted to this game. Unfortunately, we had our local leisure centre had the Gauntlet arcade machine in the reception, so when we were at school, our school was quite close to the leisure centre. Come lunchtime, we would spend an hour putting our lunch money into the Gauntlet machine and playing it. It was quite an effective diet when I was younger. However, I wouldn't recommend it. Just not eating at all and playing Gauntlet with your cash instead. But yeah, and the Master System version is an excellent port of the game. It leaves nothing out from the arcade, albeit with the graphics aren't as good as the arcade game itself, but everything else is there. All the enemies in the right place and the right amounts, and in a horde game like this, you kind of wonder how an 8-bit system managed to get that many independent sprites on the screen. Just a phenomenal achievement, and that is why it is my second favourite game, not my favourite. So, having gone through 5 through 2, this one is my favourite game of all time on the Sega Mega Drive. For me, my favourite game really had to be Wonder Boy. I know that most people will think that actually it's not even the best Wonder Boy game. I think many people like Wonder Boy 3. However, for me, the original Wonder Boy, this was my gateway drug that got me hooked on the Sega Master System. While I was still playing with microcomputers, I think at the time this came out, I had a Spectrum and a Commodore. I had a school friend who got the Master System. He got it on release, and I remember going round to his house and he put in Wonder Boy, and I just absolutely adored the game. Not having a Master System myself, I managed to source a port of the game for the ZX Spectrum, which although perfectly serviceable, it just wasn't the Master System game. So obviously, it's the Spectrum version just wasn't good enough. I needed the Master System, and I needed to play that version of the game. And all these years later, bearing in mind that Wonder Boy came out, I think it was 86. So we are now more than 30 years. That's quite scary. I still can play the game and enjoy it. It hasn't aged brilliantly. However, it's certainly aged, in my opinion, every bit as well as, for example, the original Super Mario Brothers. I think it might not be the prettiest to look at, but it plays very well, and still offers, a pretty good challenge. So that's my list. If you agree with me, I say this every time, that's really, really boring. If you disagree with me, tell me what I should have put on there. The Master System had a phenomenal library of games, especially if you agree with me that the arcade was king at the time and you wanted arcade conversions. I think that's why it dominated the Nintendo Entertainment System here in the UK, because Nintendo just didn't have the arcade conversions that Sega had. So tell me underneath which games were your favourites on the system, and if you haven't already, please drop a like on the video if you've got this far. We're quite, if you've been with me for a little while now, I think it must be something that you've liked. Please hit the thumbs up button, give me a like. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. That would be very much appreciated. Obviously, that's the way that we're going to grow and get to a wider audience. If you feel the need to share this video somewhere, by all means do so. I would be the most appreciative person in the world. And finally, as always, keep gaming.